Let us pray. Father, I want to thank you for today's teaching. We thank you for the previous ones and what you have done in our lives through them. We look up to you that you teach us a word again today. And you make us better people through your word. Thank you, blessed Father. In Jesus' mighty name, now I prayed. Amen. Yeah, welcome to today's teaching. My name is Dayo-Ojo. We'll continue our series on Redefining Prosperity the Bible way. Today we're taking part 8. We should be on, we're taking part 9. In our part 8, we said that it is God who makes every arrangement for material need of humanity. We said that God has not limited us. Regardless of our religious inclination, we can attain any height in life. We also said that when God began his redemption plan through Abraham, he gave Israel edge over every other nation. However, when God brought his perfect plan through Jesus Christ, that's the covenant we are now, we discovered that Jesus is only particular about our basic needs, necessities of life, and that even though Jesus wouldn't limit us like God does not limit those in the world and the nation of Israel, but if we must get the best and get to the height when it comes to when it comes to financial possessions, we must follow principle. Jesus is only particular about our needs. We dealt with that extensively in that part 8. And if you have not seen it, you can go and look at it. So if we come to Jesus because of riches, because of money, we might be making a very big mistake. It's particular only about our basic needs and necessities. However, there's a blind name for riches too, and to attain any height when it comes to financial or material possession. Let's see that in the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 9. 2 Corinthians 8, 9. For you know the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, that though he was rich, yet for your sake he became poor, that he, through his poverty, might be rich. What this passage say? I realize a lot of preachers have misunderstood this passage to mean that Jesus came to make us rich. That will not be correct. We started with that in our part 8. You can also go and view it to understand that that was not the plan of God per se. What this passage is saying is that we can attain any height when it comes to riches in Jesus Christ. But that does not mean that he has planned that for every Christian. It's only reserved for those who will follow the principles that makes for getting riches in Christ. What Jesus has made available to every Christian is our basic needs, our necessities. And we liken that in our teaching on that part 8 to American government. That the American government is responsible to providing education for every citizen of US up to high school level. Even though one might go beyond high school, it will be at own expense to go beyond high school. That's to go to colleges and even beyond. But we also said that sometimes there are some people that the government might give scholarship to, that they will sponsor them. The government will be responsible for all the expenses in colleges and any higher institution that one wants to go. But that scholarship is not for everyone. It's just for a very few people. Same way, Jesus is only responsible for basic needs, our necessities. Anything beyond that, you must follow principles. You must follow the rules. And that's the rule we want to look at now. Now, when God created the heaven and the earth, he decided to segment it into nations for ease of administration. You agree with me that if you have a large people, if you want to have the best out of them, you might need to group them into smaller groups. Let's see that in the book of Acts chapter 17. Acts 17, 24 to 28. God that made the world and all things therein, seeing that he is Lord, and heaven and earth, dwelleth not in temples made with hands, neither is worshipped with men's hands, and though he needed anything, see, he gave it to all, life and breath and all things. Note that he has given everything to all human beings. Now, 26, and had made of one blood all nations of men. Note that, for to dwell on all the face of the earth, and had determined the times before appointed, and the bounds of their habitation. 27, that they should seek the Lord, if haply they may feel after him and find him, though he be not far from every one of us. For him we live and move and have our being, as certain also of your poet have said, for we are also his offspring. You will see through that passage that God segmented the earth into nations. One might say that it is human being that did that. Of course, God won't come from heaven to do it physically, but we'll go through human being. He might not speak to us and shout from heaven, I want you to segment the earth to smaller nations. He won't do that. But we'll go through human being, we'll go through our heart, he will speak to people's heart, he will make people do that. You recall the story of Cyrus in the book of Isaiah, when God wanted Jerusalem to be built. Cyrus was not an Israelite, but God moved through him. So the same way, God can move through any human being to do whatever he wants to do. So when it was time to divide the earth into nations, God moved through human being and divided the earth into nations. That does not mean that every division of men to nations was orchestrated by God. But the idea of separating us into nations was actually formed or funded by God himself. Now, after doing that, God realized there would be a need for leadership, people to be in charge. Once there are groups of people or teams somewhere, for ease of administration too, you will need a leader. Just like when God created Adam and Eve, the first thing he did was to appoint who will be the head. That was Adam. And you will understand, you will agree with me that if you work in a company or a corporation and they set two people out for any assignment, if they must come back with a result, there will be need to appoint somebody as the leader. And we know that when we do that in company, we don't argue. So one is surprised today why woman being argues about Adam, man, be the head of the home, talking about feminism. If in our company will not complain as to who had any team that is going out on assignment, why should we argue when a man was appointed by God to lead the home? So the essence of Adam by appointing man to lead the home is for result, is for order, is for somebody to be held responsible in case there's any problem. The same way, God appointed leadership for humanity. Let's see 1 Kings chapter 22. 1 Kings 22:17. And he said, I saw all Israel scattered upon the hills, as sheep that have not a shepherd. And the Lord said, these have no master. Let them return every man to his house in peace. When there's no leadership, there's bound to be confusion. When there's no leadership, there's going to be disorder. When there's no leadership, there's going to be chaos. When there's no leadership, there's not going to be result. So man appointed leadership for man, and that's what we call government today. Let's see that in the book of Romans chapter 13. We read verses 1 to 4. Let every soul be subject unto higher powers, for there is no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained of God. Whosoever therefore resisteth the power resists the ordinance of God, and they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation. For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to the evil. Without then not be afraid of the power. Do what is good, and thou shalt have praise of the same. Verse 4. For he is the minister of God to thee for good. Note that the government is the minister of God to thee for good. But if thou do that which is evil, be afraid, for he beareth not the sword in vain. For he is the minister of God. Note that again, he is the minister of God, a revenger to execute wrath upon him that doeth evil. If you look at that passage we read, and maybe you look at it in other translation, you realize that what they call authority there is government. God-founded government. Verse 4 told us that for good, for administration of men, for provision of everything that will be necessary for the group of people called nation to thrive, to succeed. Now, what God did is, God knew that it's not every human being that will believe in him. So he decided to answer everything that has to do with humanity, having given us the earth. The Bible said, heaven belongs to God, heart he has given to children of men. So when he gave us the earth, his intention was to hand it over completely to us. Let us manage whatever belongs to us by ourselves. So he founded leadership and handed over everything in forms of principle that man is going to need to make life good for himself. And he put all the resources we need, he made them available, like the minerals in the earth, like the sun, like the moon, like the vegetation, everything I thought we are going to need, like the wisdom he gave to us. God made everything available. Now, the work of government is to make sure they harness the resources, everything that God has made available for the good of their own people. And provide a conducive environment for everyone to do business, or everyone to earn a living. Now, after God has done that, before we proceed, let me quickly mention something. That when people go into football match, a team is made up of 11 people. And in that team, a captain will be appointed. Every member of that team has a stake in the success of that team. Every member of that team has equal status. And that is to say, the captain is not greater than any one of them. But for ease of administration, that captain is appointed the same way government is appointed for us. Now, for the success of that team, everyone will have to supply his own, we have to play his own part. Every member of that team will have to put in effort. This is the collective effort of these people that brings success for the team. So equal people having equal stake of equal status, putting up their effort together to achieve result. That is what we call government. So the government is not greater than the people. It's just some people who have selected to take care of all that God has made available for us. Now, patriotism. Let's look at patriotism in itself by looking at the book of Psalm 122, verse 6. It says, pray for peace of Jerusalem. They that prosper that love thee, they shall prosper that love thee. This is instruction that the people of Israel must pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Jerusalem is standing for Israel there. That is, pray. That's to say, work hard. That's to say, do your own part in making sure that Israel succeeds. He said, it's by doing that. Let's read that again, part B. He said, they shall prosper that love thee. It is by doing that that you prosper. So for every human to prosper, your nation must prosper first. The prosperity of the nation is the prosperity of the people. Once the nation does not prosper, the people cannot prosper. Only a very few of them will make it in life. We can see that all around us, in Africa especially, when the government is not doing their own part. You see the majority of the people are living below the poverty line. Now, the Bible says we too must do our own part to make sure that that nation succeed. You do your own part by voting for the right leadership. You do your own part by making sure that nothing of that country suffers where you are. By putting in your own best in everywhere you find yourself, making your own contribution to the success of that nation. Let's see that again in the book of Psalm 137. 137, 5 and 6 says, if I forget thee, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget her cunning. Can you see that? That if I forget my nation, he's cursing himself. Let his right hand forget his cunning. The same way God is speaking to us today. If we forget the nation where we dwell, if we forget the nation where we were born, let our right hand forget his cunning. That's how terrible it can be. That you must love your country to the extent that it's as if it's a curse if you don't do your own part to make sure that the country succeeds. Let's see verse 6. If I do not remember thee, let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth. Can you hear that again? That the tongue should cleave to the roof of the mouth. If he does not do his part, cursing himself for not doing what he needs to do to make sure that his country succeeds. So when we're not making our country to succeed, we're cursing ourselves. When we're working against the good of our nation, we're cursing ourselves, we're cursing our posterity, we're cursing everybody in that country. So God is expecting us that if we must succeed, our country must succeed first. So if we want to succeed, the first thing that must be at the back of our mind is to ensure that we do our bit to make sure that our country succeed. Then he went further to say, if I prefer not Jerusalem above my chief joy, that's to say, you must love your country more than you love yourself. You must put your country first. That's what they call patriotism, because it's not about you. You're just one out of maybe millions of people. So if you are thinking about only your interests out of about one or millions of people's interests, that's selfishness. So if you want success for yourself, the first thing you think of is the success of your own nation, and that you must put it above your own personal success. Let's see another place in the book of Jeremiah 29. Jeremiah 29, 4-7. Thus said the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, unto all that are carried away captive, who I have caused to be carried away from Jerusalem unto Babylon, build your houses, dwell in them, and plant gardens, and eat the fruit of them. Take ye wives, and beget sons and daughters, and take wives for your sons, and give your daughters to husband, that they may bear sons and daughters, that ye may be increased there, and not diminished. And seek the peace of the city whither I have caused you to be carried away captive, not that. And pray to the Lord for it, not that. For in his peace there shall ye have peace. In the peace of your country shall you have peace. In the peace of where you dwell shall you have peace. That's to say, in the prosperity of where you dwell shall you have prosperity. In the poverty of where you dwell too, conversely, shall you have poverty. Now, this story that we just read is the story of Israel when they took them into captivity in Babylon. And God was telling them that people who did you so much harm and took you into captivity and maltreated you, he said, if you want to succeed, as long as you are living there, you must first seek their prosperity and put aside the ill that they have done to you. Put aside their wickedness towards you and look for their good so that you can prosper. If you look for their evil, if you wish them evil, you will not prosper. The same way in every nation, every human being that lives in that nation must look for the good of that nation, for that nation to succeed. And if the nation succeed, that's where our success will be. If the nation does not succeed, we will not have success. If it does not prosper, we will never prosper. That's just the truth. And we see that around us. Every prosperous nation all over the world, we see them. They have a lot of prosperous people. And every nation that is not doing well, we see the majority of people are living below poverty line. It's just the rule of God. It's just automatic. Because the government that is working will make available everything you will need for you to succeed. Everything you need for your business, what you are doing to thrive. That's just basic rule. So God was telling them that it does not matter how you hate the people. As long as you live there, look for their own prosperity. We see that play out in the lives of a couple of people in the Old Testament, like Nehemiah, like Esther, like Ezra. Like Ezra and Nehemiah, they were people who lived in captivity in Babylon. And they were living in the house of government then. They were living in presidency, so to say. And these people were working with the president, yet they were not at peace with themselves. Yet they were feeling sad every day they were working, anytime they remembered that Jerusalem laid in ruins. Now, can we imagine that people are prosperous in America today, maybe working with the Biden government, and maybe your country in Africa is not working, and you take leave of office to go to Africa, to go and make Africa go before you come back? We know a typical Africa will not do that. They want to enjoy the presidency first. You'll be afraid that what if he comes back and they take his position? But a typical Israelite, who God have taught how to make it good for themselves, how to put their country above themselves, they thought of leaving presidency to go and make their country good. You can see that in the book of Ezra and the book of Nehemiah, how these people left Babylon, working in presidency, working with the seat of government, and went to Israel to go and suffer in the name of building their nation. We also saw that in Esther. Esther was a queen, and there was a law that went out that they should kill all Israelites. Of course, since she was a queen, nobody was going to kill her. Who would go to the palace and go and kill the wife of the king? But when they told Esther that there was a decree that's gone out to kill every Israelite, she put her life in line. Because the rule says if you go to the king, whether you are queen or not, and the king does not accept your overture, you are going to be put to death. Yet Esther staked her life to go and see the king without invitation. Meaning that if the king had rejected that, she was going to be executed. She didn't mind. She had nothing to lose by not talking for the people of Israel. She was not going to die. She was going to be enjoying herself. But she didn't care the fact that she was going to be enjoying herself in the palace. She felt that people cannot be going through issues and she will keep quiet. And she staked her life for what she has nothing to lose for. That is how we should deal with our country. Refusal to deal with a nation like this, our nation cannot prosper and we cannot prosper. Let's even assume we're lucky and we prosper. What about our children? What about our children's children? So that's why we must make sure we do the best to make sure our country is good, so that it will not only be well with us, it will be well also with our posterity. If it's well with us today because we're lucky or because we're privileged, it might not be well with our children if we don't build our nations. Now, having said that, I saw something again in book of Isaiah chapter 62, verse 1 and 4. Let's see verse 1 to 4, but let's read 1 and read 4. Isaiah 62, so that we'll land up on this patriotism. We did a very deep teaching on that. I think it's a prosperity, the defining prosperity part 1. I think that was part 1. And we enjoy you to go and listen to that. It's so important because that's the foundation of prosperity for any group of people. Isaiah 62. We read verse 1, then we jump to 4. It says, for Zion's sake, I will not hold my peace. For Jerusalem's sake, I will not rest. Let me put my country there. For Nigeria's sake, I will not rest. Until the righteousness thereof go forth as brightness, and the salvation thereof as a lamp that burneth. Let's see verse 4. He says, thou shalt no more be termed forsaken. Talking about Nigeria. You will no more be termed forsaken. Neither shall thy land any more be termed desolate. But thou shalt be called Ephzibah, and thy lamb Beulah. For the Lord delighted in thee, and thy land shall be married. Note that. He said, the Lord delighted in thee. Don't forget, starting in verse 1 by saying, he will not give himself rest. That's to say, even so, the Lord delighted in thee. The Lord has said that Nigeria is going to be great. Nigeria will not be great except we do our bit. That's what verse 1 said. I will not give myself rest, even though God delighted in thee. Everyone should not give himself rest until we see to the good of our nation. We put in our best. We do everything that is possible to make sure our country succeed. We vote the right leadership. Anything we see that can work against the prosperity of our nation, we stand against it, even if it means losing our lives. That's what makes for prosperity of the people. Now, having said that, it is now our advice that it is necessary that this kind of teaching should be done in churches and even among motivational preachers. We don't do that in Africa. We only teach people how to make money individually and even the wrong way. Because as we proceed, you are going to be saying that some of the things we teach in form of prosperity are not actually prosperity. They are self-centeredness. They are not biblical. They are just human being, or let me call it self-gratification, something for ourselves, not for the people. And that's not what God has come, or what Jesus has come to teach us. Now, having said that, you realize that God won't do for us what we're supposed to do for ourselves. In that verse, Isaiah that we read, he will not do for us what we're supposed to do for ourselves. In as much as I say he delighted in Zion, he delighted in Jerusalem, the man said he will still not give himself rest. That means no matter how God delights in us, no matter how God has said Nigeria is going to do this, do that, like we used to say, it will not work except we do our part. You don't do your part, God will not do his part. Now, the second thing we do after building capacity, after building our nation, is to build personal capacity. Like in the case of a football team that I talked about, everyone will put in his best to make sure that the team succeeds. Now, after putting in their best, the likely maybe after they have won the trophy, they will name the most valuable man. The most valuable player will be somebody who did the best playing in that in the matches that they had. So your personal effort now will determine what to get, even in the prosperity of your people, of your nation. When your nation has prospered, you will still have to get something for your own self. What you get for your own self will be dependent on what you are putting into the success of that nation and what you are putting for your personal self. So the same way, let's quickly see Genesis chapter 3, verse 17 to 19. Or let me just say that offhand, because it's a place that we know that when God drove Adam out of the Garden of Eden, it cursed the earth. It didn't curse man, not that. And we said in our part 8 that the meaning of cursing the earth is that when man was in the Garden of Eden, he was getting everything free. Whether he worked or not, he was going to eat. The food was already there before it was even created. So it was not work that was giving him food. It was just working as the instruction that God has given to him. But it was not working to eat. Food was already there. But when man was thrown out of the Garden of Eden, God caused that, meaning you will have to work before you now eat. But everything he will need to make for success in his work was already provided. The minerals, the seeds, the plants, the rain, the sun, and all of that, the air, everything we need has been available. But you will now have to work. So what God has given to every human being is work. If we want to prosper in the nation that we have made great, that we are putting our best to, then we must still work to get our own portion, our own prosperity for that country. We can see that in book of 2 Thessalonians chapter 3. If we read verse 6 to 11, you see that the Bible said, he who will not work should not eat. That's it. So it's not, he will not pray, should not eat. No, because we made mistake in Africa. That when we need something from the Lord or something we should do for ourselves, we'll go and be praying. You see people on mountain praying for God to give them money when they can walk. That's not biblical. So you will not walk, will not eat. It's not you will not pray. If you also see the book of Ephesians chapter 4, verse 28, he said, there's anybody that is stealing. He said, let him stop stealing. Let him walk with his hand. That's what the Bible has given to us. You also check that same 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verses 11 and 12. The Bible says we should walk with our hands so that we will not be reproached to God. So if you don't want to be reproached to God, walk. Don't go and be praying. Don't go and be looking for men of God to lay hands on you. Of course, there's a place of that. But the most important is that you must walk. God has stopped bringing manners from heaven. Even that time that God was bringing manners, it was because they couldn't walk. They needed to be moving. They needed to be moving. People moving cannot walk. That was the reason. Once they stopped moving and they settled down somewhere, manna stopped. So no more manners. Now, the kind of work you do will determine the profit you make. We did that too in our second teaching on this prosperity series, that your work now will determine what to get out of the country, out of the prosperity of your nation. Your effort and the kind of work will determine what to get. That is to say, you must build capacity. God gives to human being according to their capacity. God does not bless people who don't have anything to offer. Let's see that in book of Isaiah 54, verse 1 to 3. It says, sing, go barren, thou that didst not bear, break forth into sing and cry aloud, thou that did not travail with child. For now are the children of the desolate, that many more are the children of the desolate than the children of the married wife, said the Lord. Enlarge the place of thy tent, and let them stretch forth the curtains of the habitation. Spare not, lengthen thy cord, and strengthen thy stake. That's build capacity. Do what you need to do to get the best out of life. Build competence, build capacity, build skills. That's what he's saying. He said, for thou shalt break forth on the right side and on the left. So you want to break forth, build capacity. You want to succeed, competence, acquire a level of skill. And thy seed shall inherit the Gentiles and make the desolate cities to inhabit. So what we do to get the best out of our nation is to have our own personal thing that we're doing. And in that thing that we're doing, we must be the best in that thing. We must put in our best so that we can get the best out of it. Don't forget there's going to be competition. And so if God says, he's telling them in this Isaiah that he's going to bless them. They say, do your own part first, enlarge the coast, strengthen your deeds, and all of that I told them there. You also know the story of talent is a very common one, the parable of talent in the book of Matthew chapter 25. The Bible says Jesus gave to every man according to their capacity. I don't want to read that because of our time, but let me give you the Bible passage. Matthew 25:14 and 15. Matthew 25:14 and 15. He said, he gave to them according to their several abilities. The one that had the ability for 5, God gave him 5. The one that had the ability for 3, God gave him 3. The one that had the ability for 1, he gave him 1. What Jesus was teaching with that parable is you only get what you deserve in life. It doesn't matter whether you're serving Jesus. It doesn't matter whether you're born again. You can't have capacity for 3 and God will give you 5. It's not going to happen. God is not unjust. You can have capacity for 1. He will give you 3. It's not going to happen. The best God can do for you is to stretch you to make you have that capacity He will now give you. But I will give you something that you have that capacity for. It's going to be a waste now. It says through much slothfulness, the house decays, something like that. The book of, I think, Proverbs or Ecclesiastes. So God is not going to waste resources. He's not going to give something to you that you're not going to be able to manage. He's not going to do that. You have to build capacity first before you can get the best out of life. So, from what we have said, riches doesn't particularly come from serving Jesus. It comes from you helping your country to grow and you doing your own part. That's where it comes from. And if you see that parable we talked about, Jesus only helped them to make sure that they got what they deserve. That's all. But that you, because you're a Christian, God is just going to come from heaven to make you rich. It's not the Bible. It's not the Bible. It's not the Bible. I don't know where we got that from in Africa. Now, let me give us some conditions based on what we have read. Because what I've just taught now is the only basic way for riches for a people. No other means other than the other one I'm going to discuss. But the basic and sure way of making money in life is through your country being great, good economy in your country, and you too do your own part. Once you do that, there's no limit to how great you can be. There's no limit to how great you can be. Now, let's see conditions, the possibilities for what we are reading. One, the first possibility is that your nation is great, good economy, and you too, you are putting your own best. You are going to be rich. There's no two ways about that. I live in America, and I work in a place where we have all manners of people, all manners of artisans, workers, and all of the employees. There are some drivers that earn as much as $50 per hour among us. In fact, I learned that some that earn as much as $100 per hour, ordinary driver. Sometimes I see the kind of cars they drive. I marvel. The cars they drive, a driver. That if you see them on the street driving those cars, you'll be thinking these are rich people. Of course, they're doing well. And some of them are good and big houses. Why? The country is good, and they too, they are putting their best. I've also met a Nigerian who said he's making 6 figures as a driver, a public car driver, taxi driver in America, making 6 figures. 6 figures means something more than $100,000 in a year. Just an ordinary driver. Why? The country is good and has put in the best in what is doing. So you will get the best out of life when your country is good and you too are putting your best. What you get will be dependent on what you are putting. He said, in every labor there is profit. That's to say, every labor has its own profit. Your kind of work will determine the kind of profit you'll get. No matter how hard a driver works, he cannot make the kind of money a consultant in a medicine, a surgeon will make. It's not going to be possible. He will not make what a renowned programmer is making. It's not going to be possible. So your kind of work too will determine what to get from the prosperity of your nation. So the first possibility is that the country is good and you too, you are putting your best, you have built capacity, then you can be rich. Now, another thing is that it is possible that you have built capacity, the country is good, and there are challenges. That is possible. Let's see the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 11. Ecclesiastes 9:11. I returned and saw under the sun that the race is not to the swift, nor battle to the strong, neither yet bread to the wise, nor yet riches to men of understanding, nor yet favor to men of skill, but time and chance happen to them all. Time and chance happens to every human being. It doesn't matter whether you are serving God or not. For instance, when there was COVID, everybody didn't have work to do. We're all locked down in our homes. So everyone will go through one issue one time or the other. It might be due to economic downturn of your nation. There might be challenges. It might be because of maybe your build capacity, you're an artisan or you're a businessman and customers are not coming. That's a challenge because you have done your best. You have decided to go and learn trade. You have gotten your best out of it and customers are not coming and your country is good. That's a challenge. It could also be that you are from Africa where people can be very wicked, seeing that you have built capacity and you are doing well and they attack you. That can be a challenge too that you have to surmount. So when you're in such a situation, God can come in for you. God can come in for you. That's where Jesus will now come in for you as a Christian. You have built capacity, your country is good, things are not working. Jesus can come in for you. Let me give an example here. I live in America. And when I came here, because I didn't go to school, I went to school in Nigeria, so I couldn't work as a graduate here. I'm working as I can call it maybe manager job, something like that. One time, we were not having enough shifts. That shift is the number of hours you can work in a week. Every shift is 12 hours. 12 hours. So we're not having enough where I was working that time. One thing God did for me, even though others were not getting enough, I was getting my complete shift as if there was no problem. Why? God was fighting for me. Jesus was fighting for me. Some of them thought my God was just favoring me. They didn't know it was Jesus. I told them anyway that this is Jesus working for me. So one of the things God can do for you is when there are challenges, He can come in for you. Don't forget the Bible says in the book of Psalm 46, there is a sure help in times of trouble. So when you're in trouble, it's a sure help for you. It could be that people are attacking you if you're an African and you know how to pray. God will be able to silence them for you. You lose your job and things are not working. God will be able to help you too. Now, another thing, I must quickly drive home here. In that my place of work, I used to monitor the road when I work in a entertainment company where people will come and park and they want to shoot their film loader. So I watch the road before they come. I watch the road and make sure that no car is parked where they're coming to park their trucks and all of that. Sometimes I will go to that walk. I'll sit in my car. I'll be doing all this, my religious stuff, reading the Bible or making arrangement for the next station I'm going to do. My supervisor noticed me and he wasn't giving me enough shift again. And one day he saw me sitting there and I come and told me that now I will be complaining because they are not giving me enough shift. I sat down, I'm not doing all of that. Where am I going? Until I began to do the right thing, I was not getting enough shift. But when I began to do when I began to do the right thing, I began to get enough shift. What are we to learn here? Is that the time of God for God, the time of your work for your work. You don't use time of God for work, and you don't use the time of work for God, like we do in Africa. That when we're supposed to be working, that's time we'll be gathering every morning to be praying. That is wrong. That's not Bible. Don't use the time you're supposed to be working for God. And at the same time, too, don't use the time you're supposed to be working for God for work. You must be able to balance it up. That's why the Bible says, give unto Caesar what is Caesar. That is, give to government what is government. Give unto God what is God. Don't say because you're serving God, you'll be lazy at work. It does not work that way. Like I said, in this example that I've just given, all that Jesus is doing for us is to help us. You have built capacity, your country is doing well, God can help you. Now, let me pick another scenario. Say, economy not good, but competence available like in Africa. Now, maybe the economy of your nation is not good, like we say in Africa, but you have done your bit. Maybe you have gone to school, you read engineering, you're a graduate, you have even gone for masters. Or maybe you're an artisan, you went to learn a trade and you are doing your best. Or maybe you have money, you are doing business and nothing is working. In that wise, there are ways God can also come for you. Don't forget also that you are doing your part. God is not just the one making you rich. He's just helping you. So what are the ways that things can work in those such situations like we have in Africa, where the government is not good, but you have done your bit? Now, a few of the people will get job naturally. They don't need prayer. They don't need fasting. It's just life. Life will give job to a few of the people, like we see in Africa. Some people go to school, they'll get job. They don't need to be Christians. We see that around us. They don't need to be born again. Don't forget I said, I don't know whether I've said it in this teaching, but I said it in that part 8 that we did, that God is the one that is responsible for material provision for every human being, regardless of who we are. He's a father. He's not coming to be counting your sin before you get what is good in life. As long as what you are doing is legitimate, you will get result. The same way, when the country is not working and you have done your bit, people will get job, whether they know God or not. The same way you that you're a Christian too will get job. Some of you rather, not everybody. Some will get job, whether they know God or not. Let's see that in the book of Ecclesiastes 5:9. 5:9. Moreover, the profit of the heart is for all. Even the king is served by the field. You heard that. The profit of the heart is for all. The profit of your country is for everybody. It's not only for Christians. So that you are serving God is not why you are going to get job sometimes. People are not even serving God will get job before you. You saw that. You have seen that now. We don't need to argue this. You see that sometimes you go for interview and people don't know God will get the job. You won't get it because life happens. Life has its own part to play. Nature has its own part to play. And nature gives to every human being as it pleases. So some people will get whether they are born again or they're not born again. That's a possibility when the country is not good and you have done your bit. Another possibility is mercy. Now, after God has provided for human being all that human being we need, one other thing that God has done for human being is mercy and favor. Mercy and favor. Like we said, in American system, they provide education up to high school level. Now, there'll be scholarship to go beyond high school. That scholarship will be for a few people. A few people. So after God has made provision for let your nation be great if they do the right thing, let you too be great if you do the right thing. One other thing God has done is to make provision for mercy for humanity. Mercy and favor. Now, this mercy and favor I'm talking about too is for every human being. You don't need to know God to access it. God is not what they have taught us He is. And that's why a lot of people are not serving God. Some of the people you are seeing that are rich are not being sponsored by the devil. It's nature that's sponsoring them. It's God that's sponsoring them. God still gives mercy to unbelievers the same way He gives to us. Why? Because He's a father. I remember some years back, not too long after I gave my life to Christ, I am from a polygamous family. And I used to have some revelations about some people in my family, maybe that are witch, let me put it that way. And I was praying, Father, kill them. All these witches, kill them. One day, the voice of the Lord came to me. That why do you want me to kill them? That am I not the one that created that like I created you? That was the last day I prayed that we should die. Don't forget, Old Testament, God approved that He can say we should die. He can even stone the witch to death. I don't want to go into that, but if you listen to our part 8, we make the analysis of how God ran and this New Testament. In this New Testament now, God treats human being in a way almost fairly equally when it comes to material possession. It is your effort that God blesses that makes the difference. Now, like I said, favor and mercy is made provision by God. He said well, America makes provision for scholarship for His people to go beyond high school. And that provision now is for every human being, a few of them, depending on how He pleases God. He uses His sovereignty to give who He wants to give mercy to. Don't forget the Bible says, I will have mercy on who I will have mercy. I will have compassion on who I will have compassion. So it's not only for Christians that God gives mercy and compassion to. Don't let anybody deceive you. And even if you want to be reasonable, you know that you have seen that around you. Where unbelievers are getting something, you're not even getting it. Because God is the Father of all. It's different from religion now. He's a Father to every one of us. He's even a Father to spirit. The Bible calls Him Father of spirit. That's why God is one feeding spirit too. He's one making provision for what spirit eat. The Bible says there are trees of this thing. They talked about the food of angels. God is the Father of all. He's a God of provision. You don't need to know Him to access provision. We've done so much in so many of our teachings with that. So the world calls this mercy. People who don't know God now who are in the world, they call this mercy and favor luck. That's what they call luck. It's me and you who are born again that call it mercy. Let's support that this claim with Psalm 136, verse 25. Say, who giveth food to all flesh? Note that. All flesh. He didn't say to Christian, all flesh. For his mercy endureth forever. Why does he give food to all flesh? Because of his mercy. You know, favor is a subset of mercy. He said, thou shalt arise and have mercy upon Zion. For the time to favor has come. Ye, the same time has come. So favor is a subset of mercy. So God gives mercy and favor to human beings. Why? Because mercy endureth forever. Let's see 145 too. Psalm 145, verses 9 and 15. I read verse 9. It says, the Lord is good to all. Note that, to all, not Christians. And his tender mercies are over all his works. So including Christians and not Christians, including people who don't even believe that God exists, including murderers. God provides for all. Then verse 15, I think. He said, the eyes of all wait upon you, and thou givest them their meat in due season. God is a God of provision for humanity. Let's see Jeremiah 27:5, because I want to drive this point home. I don't know what the pastor told you, that I remember somebody argued with me that no, God only provides for Christians. I don't know where they got that from. And I know so many great men in Africa, especially Nigeria, that I've listened to that say you can't cross a threshold of blessing except you are powered by the Spirit, except you are backed up by Spirit. That's not Bible. God has given to humanity limitless height if you do what you need to do to get there. So the rich people you are saying, they're just keen to principle of wealth that God has made available for human being, and they will get it. They don't need to know God. Jeremiah, I have made the earth, the man, the beast that are upon the ground, by my great power and my outstretched arm, and have given it unto whom it seems meet unto me. So God gives whatever he wants to anybody he wants. It doesn't matter whether you're born again. I remember when I first gave my life to Christ, and one day God told me, he said he made my father rich. I was shocked. My father was not born again that time. Thank God, before he departed from Mother Earth, he gave his life to Christ. But at that time, God was telling me, he said, I made your father rich. I was shocked. You made that man rich? That man didn't know you. But as I grew in Christ, I began to understand all these things. That you don't need to know God to have access to basic necessities of life. Anybody that's telling you anything otherwise is not speaking the Bible. He doesn't understand the Bible. He doesn't even understand God. The Bible says it's good to all. And that the Bible says, it should be the children of your father who is good to the unthankful and to the evil. God is good. In fact, he says kind. I think that's Luke chapter 6, I think verse 35. He says it's kind. It's not even good. There's a difference between being good and being kind. You can be good to somebody and be sarcastic about it. But he says it's kind. When you are kind, you are not sarcastic. You are pleasant. He says it's good to the unthankful, that is the person who doesn't recognize that is the one providing that thing, and to the evil, that's the murderer, the atheist, the people who don't even know God exists. It's still good to them. That's why you see sun on them, you see rain on them, you see everything that you have access to on them too. That's the Bible. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. So God can provide mercy for some of the people, like we say in Africa now. You now see that some people will go to school with you and they will get a job. It could be out of the mercy of God. They may be born again, they might not be born again. Where some that even be born again might not even get. But you can't live your life on that. You don't live your life on mercy. Another way God can still help when your nation is good, your nation is not good, but you have done your part, is that a few can now be blessed by being a Christian. God can show particular mercy to Christians that different from the other mercy I talked about. Now, that can come through your pastor praying for you, all of that. But a few, don't forget, I say a few. That's why you see in Africa, the people that are making it are just a few. Because the general thing God has provided is the rule I've told you earlier. All these other ones are just emergency program or crash program to just give a few leverages and benefits to access good things. It's just for a few percentage. So you can't live your life on that. We can see that in Luke 4, 25 to 27. Just a few, not every Christian. Let's support that with Luke 4, 25 to 27. But I tell you of a truth, many widows were in Israel in the days of Elias, when the heaven was shut up 3 years and 6 months, when great famine was throughout all the land. But unto none of them was Elias sent, save the Seraphet, a city of Sidon, unto a woman that was a widow. And many lepers were in Israel in the days of Elisha the prophet, and none of them was cleansed, save Naaman the Syrian. That's a clear passage. That in the days of Elijah, there are so many widows. God did not help any one of them, except the widow of Saraphat. That's the one that received mercy. And he said, in the case of the days of Elisha too, that there were many lepers. God didn't help any one of them, except Naaman. So God decides to show mercy to a few people. I will not show to others. That's at his own sovereignty. He does what he pleases. So a pastor could pray for you just like Elijah and Elisha will say here, and there'll be breakthrough. But in that wise, only very few, like the passage we read, only one in generations that he showed the mercy to. Now, let's end that passage in Mark 4, verse 8. Mark 4, 8. I want us to prove that it's not every Christian that God will help. He will just help a few. Another fell on good ground and did yield fruit and sprang up, increased, and brought forth 60, 40, 30, 60, and 100. You've seen that. He said some seed fell on good ground. Some get only 30%. They all brought forth something, but some got 30, some got 60, some got 100. God decided who will get 30, 60, 100. I don't want to press that too much. So I think that is clear. That will show mercy to who you want. Let's give another example of what you know when Peter and Andrew, Peter and his friends were fishing in Luke chapter 5. Then there was John, the son of Zebedee, and James there too. The Bible says Jesus came and rented the canoe of Peter. And at the end of the day, he prayed for Peter, and Peter got big cash. Now in that story, you notice that Peter did his part. He worked from night to day. That man was hardworking. He has built capacity. He did all that was expected of him. But there was no result. Jesus helped him. They don't forget in that story again that there were many people there. Peter's friends were there. He didn't help them. John was there. He didn't help John. James too were there. He was there. He didn't help James. So God showed mercy to some Christians too, but not all. The same way you have seen your congregation that some people have gotten breakthrough, but very few, not the majority, very few. He will show mercy to some people too, out of his magnanimity. That's one possibility. And that possibility now, which is the one we'll treat extensively later, is that in a nation like Africa, where the economy is not good, the government is not good, and you have done your part, there's a system that God will bring to cater for the needs. I repeat, the needs, not the wants. The needs, the basic necessities. God will make provision for that. Jesus will make provision for that. We're going to deal with that in our next teaching because it's a very deep thing. Failure to do that, the people will still languish in poverty. They will suffer. And that's what is happening in Africa. We're not doing that. That's why people won't be able to send their children to schools, and yet they are attending churches. People will be sick, they are attending churches they have not been catered for. People will have problem of what to eat, and they are attending churches because we're not following the rules. As if Jesus is not good. Nobody in the church of God who is a Christian is supposed to lack basic necessities. I'm not saying riches. Get it right. Basic food to eat, water to drink, clothes to wear, at least one shirt and trouser. At least something to wear. And at least to send your children to school. You are not supposed to lack that in a Christian environment. So how God wants us to do that, I will show us in the next teaching. But that is the Bible. Now, in all of this that I've talked about, you realize that first, the country must be good. Two, you must do your own part. So everything is depending on you. All that I've said that God is just helping. It's just helping. You have done your part. Country has done its part. God is just helping. That is the only way God has given to humanity to make it in life. For God to provide help for you. To make you stand out when you have done your part. But that God has called us to riches when we have not done our part is not true. The same way God is making provision for us is the same way He's making provision for the world. It can give us edge sometimes. But even when it comes to the kingdom of Jesus, we might not have the kind of edge that we think we have. Why? We did that in our part 8, that Jesus is mindful of the fact that having material possession can make us delay. So while God is not restricting the people of the earth to get whatever they can get to their capacity that they have built, God can even check our own. Jesus will check our own. Won't let us get the fullness of what we want if we have not built spiritual capacity. Now, let me quickly touch one other way that Jesus now can help, can initiate riches without we being the one initiating it. This one is not for everybody. It's for a few people. Like I said, the American government will give scholarship to a few people, not everybody that will merit it. It will now be committed to the education of those people. So these people too that I want to talk about here, God, Jesus Christ, will be committed to their riches to making them great in life. And how? Who are these people? Let's see that very quickly.